This is Aunt Shazy. There's a tiny house craze now, but if you've ever been to Colorado Springs or Manitou Springs in Colorado, you might have noticed some different kinds of tiny houses. They are tuberculosis huts, technically gardener huts, and I'll explain more about why later in the video. I wonder how many people walk by them every day and have no idea what they are. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the history of tuberculosis in Colorado Springs, but I won't get heavy into the medical side. My sister's the doctor, not me. At the turn of the 20th century, a diagnosis of tuberculosis, the White Plague, was often a death sentence. There were dozens of TB facilities in the Colorado Springs area, and I'm going to tell you about a couple of them. First, let's talk about the Modern Woodmen of America, or MWA for short. When tuberculosis began decimating their membership, the organization took a radical step. Rather than simply paying out death benefits, they decided to invest in life, and let's admit it, it's cheaper to not pay out the death benefits. That's when they sent men to scout out an area at the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. In 1909, the MWA opened a world-class sanatorium just north of Colorado Springs near Mount Hermon, transforming a rugged landscape into a sanctuary of healing and high-altitude hope. The region was already famous for its climate culture, the belief that thin, dry air and abundant sunshine of the Rockies could heal scarred lungs. The MWA Sanatorium was offered as a free benefit to any, quote, neighbor, aka member, who had held a policy for at least a year. Its first patient was Eric Lund of Alexandria, and operating costs the first year was $46,409. That's like over $1.6 million today. Unlike the imposing hospital-like structures of the East, the MWA Sanatorium was designed as a sprawling, self-sufficient village. Patients lived in unique octagonal canvas and wood cottages known as huts or chalets. These were designed to maximize ventilation, ensuring that patients breathed fresh mountain air 24 hours a day. The main administration building and dining hall were grand, designed to inspire confidence and dignity in patients who had often been shunned by society due to the contagious nature of their illness. Life for a patient was a strictly regulated cycle of, quote, the cure. The regimen was built on 3 pillars: rest, diet, and fresh air. Patients spent hours in recliner chairs on sunny porches. Exercise was forbidden for those with active fevers, but as they improved, they were encouraged to take short, supervised walks on the beautifully landscaped grounds. It may sound almost like a vacation, but it was governed by the, quote, clock and thermometer. It was a place of extreme discipline, almost militant in its battle against a silent enemy. Even in the winter, the windows remained open with the patients under heavy wool blankets in their huts. The huts were primarily heated using small steam heating systems. Living here in Colorado Springs, I can tell you that almost every night in the winter, I don't want to sleep with my window open. But then again, I'm always cold. Because all patients were fellow Woodmen, there was a unique fraternal bond. They published their own newspaper, the Sanatorium Review, and held concerts and film screenings in the auditorium to combat the crushing homesickness and the sanatorium blues. The MWA was a place of quiet camaraderie. They referred to each other as neighbors. Every afternoon from 1 to 3 p.m., the entire campus fell into absolute silence. This was a time called the rest. No talking, no reading, and certainly no walking. Patients lay in reclining chairs forbidden to exert themselves, as doctors believed even a slightly elevated heart rate could aggravate a lung lesion. It took a small army to keep this city of hope running. At its peak, the sanatorium was one of the largest employers in the region. Interestingly, the MWA often hired arrested patients, those who TB was no longer active, not felons. These men understood the struggle better than anyone. They took jobs in the post office, the library, or the power plant, gradually building back their strength before returning to the outside world. The doctors and nurses were the elite, offering medical and dental services. But the real work was done by the farmers, herdsmen, and maintenance crews. Preparing thousands of meals that were both medically necessary and palatable was a massive logistical feat. The sanatorium even had its own bakery and butcher shop. To combat the wasting nature of TB, patients were fed an incredible amount of calories. The MWA dairy farm produced high-fat milk and cream, and I read the patients were often required to drink up to 12 glasses of milk alongside 3 heavy, protein-rich meals. I don't even think I drink 1 glass of milk a day. Because the site was so remote, many employees lived on-site in separate dormitories. It's hard to imagine it today, this area being considered remote. If you live here, you know what I'm talking about. Colorado Springs population was about 30,000 in 1920, but in 2026, it's about 500,000, and the metro area of Colorado Springs is around 716,000, according to World Population Review. I moved here in 2003, and it has exploded in size since I moved here. So much so that we're actually moving out of the area this summer. So keep an eye out for videos of a whole new area. During its operation from 1909 to 1947, the MWA treated over 12,000 men. Many returned to their families arrested, like I said earlier, meaning their disease was no longer active, not that they were bad people. This is due to the high standards of care provided by the society. By the late 1940s, the arrival of antibiotics like streptomycin changed the landscape of tuberculosis treatment. The era of the Mountain Sanatorium was ending. In 1947, the modern Woodmen of America closed the facility and sold the property to the Sisters of St. Francis of Perpetual Adoration. The Sisters transitioned the site into Mount St. Francis, which served various roles over the decades, including a convent, a girls' school, and eventually a nursing facility and retreat center. The transition changed the energy of the valley. The bustling, male-dominated fraternal colony was replaced by the quiet, rhythmic life of the sisters. The grand dining hall was converted into a space of worship, and the administration buildings became a mother house, the central headquarters for the order. The sisters utilized the self-sustaining infrastructure perfectly. They continued the tradition of stewardship over the land, maintained the gardens, and the peaceful wooden paths. For them, the fresh air wasn't just medicine, it was a way to be closer to God. Over time, the area evolved. A portion of the property became a parochial school, Mount St. Francis High School for girls, and eventually the St. Francis of Assisi Catholic Church was established nearby, serving the growing residential community of Woodmen Valley. Today, the legacy of the sanatorium lives on in the very geography of Colorado Springs. The namesake Woodmen Road, one of the city's major east-west arteries, was originally the route used to transport supplies and patients to the remote facility. For me personally, Woodmen was the first road I remember traveling on when I moved to Colorado Springs, and my first apartment was on Woodmen. Oh, and I should mention, the sanatoriums that I'm talking about in this video weren't the first. That honor goes to Bellevue. It opened in 1888 on Institute Street, near where the old St. Francis Hospital used to be, and was an early 5-tent TB treatment center. It evolved into the Bethel Hospital in 1911 and ultimately Memorial Hospital in 1943, which has a long history of its own, starting as the Colorado Conference Deaconess Hospital before it was Bethel, with the city of Colorado Springs buying and renaming the hospital in 1943 during World War II and renaming the hospital to Memorial to honor World War II veterans. But that's a whole different story for another video. Speaking of hospitals, you can still find an original TB hut at the corner of Jackson and North Cascade, right on the campus of what is now Common Spirit Penrose Hospital. This site was once the home of the Glockner Tuberculosis Sanatorium, founded in 1890 as a memorial to Albert Glockner. His widow Marie was only 22 when Albert died of TB at just 31 years old. Unlike the free care at the MWA, Glockner charged a daily rate. To get the sanatorium off the ground, Marie Glockner brought in the best of the best. The first superintendent was Dr. B.P. Anderson, a top-tier lung specialist from St. Francis Hospital. He was joined by his assistant, Dr. Charles Fox Gardner, the man who actually designed those famous octagonal huts we see everywhere. He was actually inspired by teepees. Dr. Gardner died in July of 1947 and is buried here in Colorado Springs at Evergreen Cemetery. By 1893, the Glockner family decided to hand over the reins, donating the entire sanatorium to the Sisters of Charity of Cincinnati. Over time, the facility evolved into Penrose Hospital, named after the legendary Spencer and Julie Penrose. I've got a video all about them if you want a deeper dive. The Penroses shifted the hospital's focus towards specialized cancer care, leading to the Penrose Tumor Institute. After a massive $3.2 million donation from Julie in 1959, which is about $35 million in today's money, the Glockner name was finally dropped, and Penrose Hospital as we know it was born. Next, the Union Printer's Home. It was one of the largest TB homes in the area, and just like the MWA, it served its purpose until the mid-20th century. I'm super bummed because when I went to film at the location, it was gated up with no trespassing signs, and I don't break the rules. So I came back home to find out what happened. It was built in 1892 and then turned into an elder care facility. It closed in 2020 following health violations, safety concerns, and a tragic resident death, as reported by the Colorado Springs Gazette. An 89-year-old woman named Margarita Sam was found frozen to death outside the home. That breaks my heart. The 26-acre property was purchased in 2021 by a local investment group which is redeveloping the site into a mixed-use campus of a hotel, restaurants, and green space, while preserving the historic castle-looking building. Luckily, a group of locals salvaged and saved an enormous amount of historical artifacts. You can also find an original hut at the historic Rockledge Ranch, located within the iconic Garden of the Gods Park. It's located right off the main entrance off Gateway Drive, and it's the first historic structure visitors interact with, anchoring the ranch's stories of health-seeking pioneers. And if you ever come here for the iconic Garden of the Gods 10-mile 10K race in June, you'll see it. The effort to preserve these structures is growing. Recently, students at Fountain Fort Carson High School began restoring another hut located across from Aragon Elementary School. These projects often involve cleaning, structural repair, and restoring the original ventilation features to educate the public on the City of Sunshine era. Yes, we were once known as the City of Sunshine. And it's not all about Colorado Springs. Neighboring Manitou Springs also had the Montcalm Sanatorium, which is now the Miramont Castle. It was built between 1895 and 1897 by Father Francolin, who invited the Sisters of Mercy to use his home as a TB facility. You can see a hut on the grounds, and, not a very far walk away, just down Manitou Avenue, you'll see 2 former TB huts being used by the Total Nuts Company. So stop in, support local, grab a snack. And if you really want more information and a better look at the history of TB in Colorado Springs than I can offer, go to the Colorado Springs Pioneers Museum. It's free to visit, my favorite, and come on, of course I've done a video on the museum. It can be found on this YouTube channel as well. I need to say a big thank you to the Pikes Peak District Library for the information and some of the photos used in this video. Support your local library and, of course, my content with a like and a subscribe. If you've made it this far, thanks for watching.